Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are really digging into how adversity shapes us. We're drawing from two key sources, the Diamond Mind, how pressure turns pain into purpose, and also the healing journey, self-discovery for personal empowerment. And this is crucial stuff. If you're dealing with intense pressure at work, maybe juggling family stress or, looking for a practical way through depression towards empowerment, this deep dive is really aimed at you. Our mission here is to give you that shortcut, that actionable framework for turning pressure into, well, real lasting growth.
That framework idea is so important, isn't it? Because we're not just talking about resilience as like bouncing back.
Right.
The sources really push back on that. They argue pretty compellingly that just getting back to where you were means the struggle was kind of wasted. True resilience, especially as the Diamond Mind puts it, is about active growth because of the challenge. The pressure isn't just something you survive, it's utilized, like how a diamond is formed.
I got all that pressure.
Exactly. And this whole transformation, it kicks off with a fundamental shift in mindset. You have to start seeing challenges not as personal failures, but as inevitable, as data. Yes. When you really internalize that setbacks are the raw material for growth, for self-discovery, you've already shifted gears. You're moving from just recovery to proactive empowerment.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's look at the foundations the sources mentioned, starting with the internal tools, emotional intelligence, EQ, and self-reflection. Yeah. These are like the first responders, right?
Absolutely. It's just non-negotiable when things get tough. What's fascinating is how the sources link EQ directly to managing your response.
How so?
Well, in a crisis, that first impulse, fear, anger, whatever, it's often pure survival instinct.
Yeah.
EQ gives you that critical split-second pause.
That cognitive interrupt you mentioned.
Precisely. It lets you evaluate the feeling underneath and choose a response instead of just reacting. It's about moving control from the lizard brain to the thinking brain. Leads to much better outcomes.
Okay, but, that sounds logical. How does it play out differently for, say, a business owner versus a parent? Take the business owner first, high stakes.
Okay, imagine a business owner getting really tough feedback on a big project. Without much EQ, the instinct might be defensiveness, maybe anger, maybe avoidance. That just hurts the team, blocks learning.
Right.
With practiced EQ, they pause. They might feel that flush of anger, but recognize it as maybe fear of failure. Then they can approach the feedback as data. Okay, what can we adjust here? That response management, that's leadership.
And for a parent under stress, how does EQ help there?
For parents, it's often tied really closely to self-reflection, which kind of fuels the EQ. The healing journey talks a lot about this.
Okay.
Reflection lets you look at your own patterns. Maybe you react to your kid's behavior the same way your parents reacted to you, even if you know it wasn't helpful back then.
Recognizing those triggers.
Exactly. Self-reflection helps you spot those inherited triggers. Then you can consciously choose a more present, regulated response. You're not just reacting, you're modeling resilience for your kids.
And for someone managing depression, self-reflection seems key there too.
Definitely. It becomes almost a clinical tool. You start tracking, maybe even naming the thought loops or the situations that tend to precede a downturn. By identifying the pattern, you gain some leverage over it. You turn these big, overwhelming feelings into something more manageable. Data again.
Right. It's structured looking inward, not just aimless thinking. Okay, so that leads us from understanding ourselves better to what we actually do. If reflection shows us the triggers, what stops them firing?
That's where mindfulness comes in. It's the daily practice, the training needed to catch those triggers before they escalate.
Gotcha.
Both sources really champion mindfulness, not just for general anxiety reduction, though it does that, but for creating immediate mental space when you're under pressure.
So it's like an emergency brake.
Sort of, yeah. When your mind is racing about the future or stuck chewing on the past, you're not really here. Mindfulness pulls you back to the present moment.
And the sources suggest practical ways to do this.
Oh, absolutely. And often without needing, a special setup. Simple mindful breathing, just focusing on the feeling of breath for, say, 90 seconds is mentioned as a really powerful anchor.
I like the idea of weaving it into daily life, not adding another to-do. Can you give an example of how that minute-to-minute awareness might work?
Sure. Think about that busy executive. Maybe between meetings, instead of mentally jumping ahead, they just take 30 seconds. Feel their feet on the floor, the chair beneath them. Just ground themselves.
Okay.
Or the parent maybe really paying attention to the taste and warmth of their coffee for a minute instead of running through the mental checklist. A tiny pause in the chaos.
And for someone dealing with depression.
This can be incredibly powerful because depression often involves that kind of emotional time travel, right?
Yeah.
Getting lost in past regrets or future fears. So focusing intently on something really mundane and immediate, like the sensation of water on your hands, washing dishes, it actually limits the brain's bandwidth for those negative thought spirals. You're just here, washing the dishes.
That intentional focus. It really sets the stage for the next piece, doesn't it? The growth mindset.
It absolutely does. The growth mindset is this core belief that your abilities, your intelligence, they aren't fixed things. They can be developed.
And why is that so critical for resilience?
Because it fundamentally changes how you view failure. If you have a fixed mindset, failure feels like a final judgment on your worth or capability.
Right. I failed, therefore I am a failure.
Exactly. But with a growth mindset, failure isn't a verdict. It's feedback. It's valuable information. It tells you what to try differently next time. Setbacks become necessary data points on the path to success.
Can you give an example, maybe for the business owner again?
Yeah. Say that product launch fails. Fixed mindset. See, I knew I wasn't cut out for this. Growth mindset. Okay, that hurt. But what did we learn? The market wasn't ready for feature X, but they loved Y. Let's pivot.
It's seeing it as an expensive but useful experiment.
One for the parent.
It changes how you praise your kids. Instead of, you're so smart. After a good grade, it's, wow, you worked really hard on that project for hours. Your effort paid off. You're praising the process, the persistence, not just some innate trait. That builds confidence and a love of learning.
Okay, moving towards action then. Crisis often brings this feeling of helplessness, like everything's out of control. But the sources talk about goal setting as a way to regain focus. How do you set goals when just getting out of bed feels like a win?
That's a really important point. And this is where the healing journey adds a critical nuance. The goals have to be about the process, not necessarily the big outcome. And they need to be aligned with your values and, crucially, manageable.
Process over outcome, what does that mean practically? It means during really uncertain times, your goal shouldn't be something huge and overwhelming like fix my entire life. It needs to be broken down, way down.
Like micro goals.
Exactly. For someone struggling with severe anxiety or depression, a goal might genuinely be drink 1 glass of water before 10 a.m. or walk to the mailbox and back.
That seems almost too small.
It might seem small from the outside, but each time you achieve one of those tiny goals, you get a little hit of accomplishment. It rebuilds that sense of agency, that determination, bit by tiny bit. The goals act like little points of light, guiding you when everything else feels foggy.
The sources also mentioned flexibility in goal setting. That feels a bit counterintuitive, right? Aren't goals supposed to be fixed targets?
Well, yes and no. Resilience isn't about being rigid. It's about being adaptable. Smart persistence, maybe? Goals you set in the middle of a crisis are based on the information you have then. But things change fast. If you cling rigidly to a goal that's no longer helpful, or maybe even harmful, like pushing through a work project that's crushing your mental health, you actually undermine your resilience.
So adjusting the goal isn't failure.
Not at all. The sources frame it as enhancing resilience. When you adjust a goal to better fit your current reality, maybe align it more closely with a core value like health or family, you're being smart. You're focusing your limited energy on what you can control, moving from feeling passive to being proactive. That shift itself reduces stress.
That makes sense. It leads us to the really deep work, doesn't it? Long-term self-discovery, finding purpose, lasting healing. The framework says look inward. What are we actually looking for?
2 key things, according to the sources: your innate inner strength and those hidden limiting beliefs that hold you back.
Inner strengths.
Yeah.
Like talents.
Not just talents you were born with, more like the specific abilities you've developed because you've faced hard times before. Maybe it's patience, maybe critical thinking, empathy, sheer endurance. Recognizing these gives you a solid foundation. You know what you're building on.
And the limiting beliefs.
Those are the invisible fences, often set up in childhood or by society. The healing journey specifically calls out common ones, like a deep-seated fear of failure or that nagging feeling that you're somehow not worthy of success or happiness.
Right. Those feel big and hard to pin down. If they're invisible, how do you even find them, let alone challenge them?
It goes back to that structured self-reflection we talked about, maybe through journaling or specific thought-tracking exercises. The process described is often 3 steps: recognize, reframe, rewrite.
Okay, break that down.
First, you recognize the belief when it pops up. That thought, I can't possibly apply for that promotion, I'll just mess it up. There it is. Second, You reframe it by looking at the actual evidence, not just the feeling. Okay, I didn't get the last promotion, but what did I learn? I learned I needed more experience in X, and I've spent a year getting it. I'm actually more prepared now.
Challenging the assumption.
Exactly. And third, you actively rewrite the internal narrative. You create a new belief statement. I am capable and worthy of this opportunity. Each attempt teaches me something valuable. It's about systematically turning that inner critic's vague judgment into concrete counter-evidence. That's how you start dismantling the fence.
That's a powerful process.
Yeah.
So we've got reflection, mindfulness, goal setting, tackling beliefs. How do we weave this all together into something lasting, the integration phase?
The sources talk about creating a personal empowerment plan. Think of it like your personal constitution or roadmap.
Okay.
It's a written document where you pull together your core values, your identified inner strength, your process-oriented, value-aligned goals, and the specific mindfulness practices that work for you. It's what you turn to when things get rocky.
A personal guide.
Yes. And critically, the sources also stress sharing the journey. Don't try to do this entirely alone. Find a supportive community, a therapist, an accountability partner, sharing your process, your vulnerability. It's not weakness. It builds connection, reinforces your commitment, and can create this amazing ripple effect of healing.
That really brings it all together. So just to summarize, the key pillars you, the listener, now have in your toolkit. You've got enhanced EQ to manage those reactions, mindfulness to stay anchored in the present, and value-aligned goals to keep you moving forward with a sense of purpose, all fueled by that crucial work on inner narratives.
Right. And connecting back to that core metaphor of the diamond, the final thought really is that this isn't about reaching some endpoint where the pressure magically disappears. Healing, growth, it's a continuous process. It's about embracing the power within those challenges. The pressure is part of what creates the value.
Fantastic. So building on that, here's a final thought for you to take away and maybe chew on. If overcoming adversity means really digging into those past triggers and rewriting those limiting beliefs, what is the one core value, that single non-negotiable principle for you, that you will anchor your very next small achievable process goal to this week? Use this framework. Let that pressure work for you, not against you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.